Today we are reviewing adding and subtracting with rational numbers. Our I can statements: I can add and subtract rational numbers, and I can solve real life problems. So rational numbers include both numbers in decimals and fraction form. So we're going to do just a quick reminder of the rules for decimals and fractions before we try specific problems. So for decimals, you need to make sure that you line up decimal points, add zeros as placeholders if needed, and then when you're subtracting numbers or you're adding a positive and a negative, you need to make sure that you write the number with the largest absolute value on top. And that's a good thing to do no matter what. If you're not sure, just write the greater absolute value, that number on top. With fractions, your first step is going to be to find a common denominator before adding or subtracting. And then you add or subtract the numerators and you keep the denominator the same. When adding or subtracting mixed numbers, do the operations with the fraction first before the whole number. For subtraction problems, you may need to borrow one whole from the whole number. And if you feel more comfortable making your mixed numbers into improper fractions, so you don't have to worry about borrowing, then you can do that as well. All right, so adding rational numbers. Adding rational numbers with the same signs. So to add rational numbers with the same sign, you're going to find the sum of the absolute values. So same signs, find the sum. Right here. That's what we've been using as our integer rule. It's true for rational numbers as well. Same sign, find the sum. The sum has the same sign as the sign of the rational number. So negative 2 5/10 plus negative 1 1/2 is going to be negative 4. Same signs, find the sum. Here with our mixed numbers, 3 and 1 1/2 is 4 1/2. Same signs, find the sum. Adding rational numbers with different signs. To add rational numbers with different signs, you find the difference. Different signs, find the difference of the absolute value. And then we are using the sign of the rational number with the greater absolute value. So 2 5/10 plus negative 7 5/10. So we'd subtract different signs, find the difference to get our answer. And actually, I don't agree with the answer here. That really should be a negative 5. I'm just going to cross that out. Okay, over here, I have 1/2 plus negative 3/4. We would need to find a common denominator, so that would be 2/4. I'll just cross that out here. Positive 2/4 plus negative 3/4. 3 minus 2 is 1. More negatives answers a negative. All right, so let's try some of these problems together. So for our first example here, we've got mixed numbers, which we can leave as a mixed number or we can change into an improper fraction. Just looking at the fractions parts here, I've got negative and a negative. I'm going to find the same sign. I'm going to find the sum. So I'm just going to leave it as a mixed number. Doesn't really matter. Negative 1 2/5 plus negative 4/5. So I'm choosing to leave mine as a mixed number. You want to make sure if that's the case, you line up your fractions, you line up your whole numbers, and then you add. So 2/5 plus 4/5. 2 plus 4 is 6, so that would be 6/5. And then I have 1 that I'm just going to bring down. So 1 6/5, but that 6/5 is an improper fraction. It's really like 1 plus 1 1/5. So really for this one, it's going to be a negative 2, negative because these were both negative numbers, and 1/5. All right, let's take a look at our next one. Negative 4 5/100 plus 7 62/100. Different signs, we're going to find the difference. Number with the greater absolute value has to go on the top when you're writing it. So 7 62/100 plus a negative 4 and 5/100ths. Different signs. We're going to find the difference we are subtracting with these two numbers. Make sure you line up your decimals. Add 0 placeholders if you need to. Okay, so 2 minus 5 takes us into the negative. So I'm going to borrow from the 6. I'm going to make that a 5, and I'm going to change my 2 into a 12. 12 minus 5 is 7. 5 minus 0 is 5. Bring down that decimal. 7 minus 4 is 3. More positives. Answer's positive. So my answer on this one is 3 and 57/100ths. All right, next one. 4/5 plus negative 3/10. Different signs. I'm going to find the difference. But before I do, I need a common denominator. I'm going to use tenths because I know 5 times 2 equals 10. That way I only have to change one of my fractions. 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times 2 is 10. 8/10 plus a negative 3/10. I like to write my negatives on fractions in the numerator, just to make that negative sign stand out a little bit more. I have different signs, so I'm finding the difference. 8 minus 3 is 5. More positives. Answer is positive. 5/10. Fraction answers do need to be in simplest form. Since I know both 5 and 10 are divisible by 5, I need to divide them both by 5. That's going to give me an answer of 1/2. All right, and our word problem. Kevin used his debit card to buy lunch for $17.23 on Wednesday. On Thursday, he deposited $15.48 back into his account. What is the overall increase or decrease in his bank account? So for story problems like this, you need to think about if your numbers are negative or positive. So if he used his debit card to buy lunch, that's going to be a negative number because he paid that amount. It came out of his bank account. And then the deposit, that's going to be a plus, a positive, because he's putting it back in. So I have negative 17.23 plus a positive $15.48. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and write it. The one with the greater absolute value, which is the $17.23. It's going on the top. Make sure to line up those decimals. Okay, different signs. I'm going to find the difference. 3 minus 8 takes me into the negative, so I'm going to borrow. I'm going to make that 2 a 1. I'm going to change that 3 into a 13. 13 minus 8 is 5. 1 minus 4 takes me into the negative, so I'm going to borrow again. That 7 becomes a 6. This 1 becomes an 11. 11 minus 4 is 7. Bring down the decimal point. 6 minus 5 is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. I have more negatives than positives, so my answer is going to be negative. And story problems always need a label. So here, that's going to be a negative $1.75. So that's going to end up being a decrease in his bank account. Okay, subtracting rational numbers. So to subtract rational numbers, we need to add the opposite. We also talked about that as being boom, boom. And then to find the opposite of a number, you change the sign of the number. So if it's positive, it becomes negative. Negative becomes positive. So if I look over here, I've got negative 3 1/3 minus 5/6. So we do boom, change to addition, boom, change the sign, and now it becomes plus negative 5/6. Same signs, find the sum. Here I have 12.5 minus negative 4 8/10. Boom, change to addition, boom, change the sign. Different signs, find the difference. I now have negative 12.5 plus 4 8/10, negative 7 7/10. And then here, distance between two numbers on a number line is the absolute value of the difference of the numbers. That means you're subtracting these two numbers. If you want to make sure that your answer is positive, put the greater one in the problem first. However, if you put the lower value number in the problem first, which is what they did on this one, negative 3 1/4, and you get a negative answer, you just need to find the absolute value because distance is always positive. Okay, so let's take a look at some subtraction problems here. So for number 1, I have negative 5/10 minus 3 5/10. So boom, change to addition. Boom, change the sign. Same sign, find the sum. write that greater absolute value number on the top. It's less important when you're adding the 2 digits, but it's still a good habit to get into, because in subtraction it does really matter. 5 plus 5 is 10, so this is going to be a 0. I'm going to carry my 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. My numbers are negative, so my answer is going to be negative. Negative 4 and 0 tenths. Same thing as negative 4. Number 2, negative 2 ninths minus negative 3. Boom, change to addition. Boom, change the sign. Boom, change to addition. Boom, change the sign. All right, so if I am dealing with this as a whole number, I need to, and I want to make it an improper fraction, I need to put it over 1. So that's going to be my strategy for this one, since I have a whole number and I have a fraction. So I'm going to make that 3 over 1. Okay, and then I need a common denominator. So to make my 1s into 9s, I'm going to have to multiply by 9. So I'm going to multiply by 9 and multiply by 9. So my answer here, negative 2 ninths, sorry, not my answer, mini problem, negative 2 ninths plus, and then I'm going to have 27 ninths. Different signs, find the difference. 27 minus 2 is 25. So I have 25 ninths. That's an improper fraction because 25 is greater than 9. So I'm going to need to make that into a mixed number. So 25, 9 goes into 25. It's going to go in 2 times. Now if you need to, you can do the long division. I guess I'll do it down here at the bottom where I have a little more space. The numerator, number on top, goes on the inside of the division. If you're a person that needs to write it out. And the bottom goes on the outside. Okay, 9 goes into 25 2 times. 2 times 9 is 18. 25 minus 18 is 7. So 2 and 7 ninths is my answer. And then I need to think about if it's positive or negative. More positives, answer is positive. So 2 and 7 ninths is my answer on that one. And then for number 3, I have negative 3 halves minus 4 halves. So boom, change to addition. Boom, change the sign. Okay, this one I'm going to leave in mixed number form because I'm adding, I already have a common denominator. It just seems like less work. So negative 3 1/2. You should line them up so that the fractions are in line. Plus a negative 4 1/2. All right. 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1 whole. 3 plus 4 is 7. Got to put those parts together. 7 plus 1 is 8. My numbers were negative, so my answer is going to be negative. Negative 8 is my answer for number 3. And then for my word problem, a climber starts descending from 445 feet above sea level and keeps going until she reaches 15 feet below sea level. How many feet did she descend? Okay. So descending means going down. So she starts at 445 feet and she's going down to 15 feet below. That's a negative 15. So here's your problem. 445 minus a negative 15. All right, boom, change to addition. Boom, change the sign of the next number. I now have 2 positive values to add. 5 plus 5 is 10. 1 plus 4 is 5 plus another 1 is 6. And my 4 plus 0 is 4. So 460 feet. Descended. Now I use the word descended to mean that she is going down. Could use a negative as well. All right, so let's take a look at our last problem here. Akash, Bao Ying, Chris, and Donna all live on the same street as their school, which runs east to west. And it says Akash lives 5.5 blocks to the west, Bao Ying lives 4 1/4 blocks to the east. Chris lives 2 3/4 blocks to the west. Donna lives 6 1/2 blocks to the east. And you have to find the distance between all of these values. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get this set up, and then you can take a minute to work on it on your own. First thing we're going to do is to set up a picture. I'm going to put arrows on the ends because my picture is really going to be like a number line. 0 is going in the middle, that's our school. Okay, I'm going to use little lines to represent the distances. There's west, here's the east. Okay, so Akash lives 5 1/2 blocks to the west. 1, really these are like negatives on our number line. So 5 1/2 blocks to the west would be right here. So this is Akash's house. I'm just going to write an A in it. Bao Ying lives 4 1/4 blocks to the east. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 1/4 is going to be approximately here. All right, Chris lives 2 3/4 blocks to the west. So 2 3/4 would be about here. And Donna lives 6 1/2 blocks to the east. Okay, so what this sheet asks you to do, it's actually not all here on my teacher slide, but on the sheet that goes with it, it asks you to find the distance between all of the houses. So from Akash to Chris, Akash to Bao Ying, Akash to Donna, Bao Ying to Chris, Bao Ying to Donna, Chris to Donna, all of those. So you have to figure out what the distance is going to be between them. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and take a little time to try to figure out the distance between these different points on our picture. Okay, let's check your work. So I'm going to start with Akash to Chris. Now, if I am going to use these numbers as negatives, the distance between them is a subtraction problem. Any of these are really subtraction problems because I'm finding the distance between two things. Okay, so Akash minus Chris. Akash is at negative 5 1/2. Okay, and actually I'm going to erase that because if I want a positive answer, which of course I do because it's a distance, I need to make sure that my number that is greater in value, means closer to the positive side, goes first. Otherwise I'm going to end up with a negative answer. Okay, so I have negative 2 3/4. Minus negative 5 1/2. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do, boom, change to addition. Boom, change the sign. The second thing I'm going to do is to find a common denominator. All right, so now I have -2 3/4 plus a positive 5 2/4. Different signs, find the difference. I'm going to keep my mixed numbers as mixed numbers when I rewrite it. So I'm going to put the one with the greater absolute value on the top. That's my 5 2/4 plus my -2 3/4. All right, I need to borrow because 2 minus 3 takes me into the negatives. So I'm going to borrow. This is going to be a 4, and then I'm adding 1 whole. So I'm adding 4/4. Okay, so 2/4 plus 4/4 is 6/4. Okay, 6/4 minus 3/4 is 3/4. 4 minus 2 is 2. So 2 3/4 blocks. Okay, so that's Akash to Chris. I'm now going to do Akash to Baoying. Okay, and again, I'm going to start by writing the subtraction problem. So Baoying is 4 1/4 minus -5 1/2. Boom, change to addition, boom, change the sign. I'm now adding but 2 positive numbers. And if you look at this picture, hopefully you can see how adding 2 positives would make sense. They're on different sides of the school. So you have 5 1/2 all the way to the school, plus another 4 1/2 blocks to get to Baoying's house. So that's why we're adding. They're on different sides of the number line. Where on these, where they're on the same signs, you really have to subtract with those values because they're different. We did subtract with these, but it ends up being the same thing as adding 2 positives. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite them as vertically, like I did over here, and I'm going to use my 5 2/4 because it's a common denominator. So, let's see, I'm going to do it over here. 5 2/4 plus 4 1/4, same signs, we're going to find the sum. 2/4 plus 1/4 is 3/4. 5 plus 4 is 9. So that's going to be 9 3/4 blocks. All right, I'm going to need some more space here. All right, so for my next problem, I'm going to do Akash to Dana. Now Donna is at 6. I gotta go back up here. 6 1/2. All right. Distance on the number line, we're still subtracting. Larger number goes first. 6 1/2 minus our -5 1/2. Boom, change to addition. Boom, change the sign. I already have a positive. I already have a common denominator, so that makes it easier. 6 1/2 plus 5 1/2. 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1 whole. 6 plus 5 is 11. Got to put those parts together. Their distance is 12 blocks. Hopefully looking at that number line picture, that makes sense to you. Why the difference between this all the way over to there is 12 blocks. All right, so let's see. The next thing I'll do is Baoying to Chris. Okay, Baoying was this 4 1/4. Chris was over here at -2 3/4. So 4 1/4 minus -2 3/4. Boom, change to addition. Boom, change the sign. All right, grade our absolute value on top. 4 1/4 plus 2 3/4. 1/4 plus 3/4 is 4/4, that's 1 whole. 4 plus 2 is 6. So 6 plus 1 whole is going to be 7 blocks between their houses. Okay, so that's bowing to Chris. I also need to do bowing. I don't need to do bowing to Akash because I already did that here. I do need to do bowing to Donna. Okay, so bowing to Donna. They were both positive numbers. 6 1/2 was Donna. Minus 4 1/4 was bowing, I believe, but let me go back up and just double check. Yeah, 4 1/4. All right, I do need a common denominator, so I'm going to just do times 2 times 2. That's going to be 6 2/4 minus 4 1/4. 2/4 minus 1/4 is 1/4. 6 minus 4 is 2. 2 1/4 blocks. Let's look at the picture and see if that answer makes sense. Yeah, it does look like a little bit more than 2 blocks here between these two houses. And then the last one we haven't done is Chris to Donna. So that'll be our last one of these problems, and then we'll be all done. So Chris to Donna. Looks like Chris is -2 3/4. Donna is 6 1/2. So 6 1/2 minus our -2 3/4. Again, we're finding distances on the number line here. Boom, change to addition. Boom, change the sign. I do need a common denominator. So I have 6 2/4 plus 2 3/4. 2/4 plus 3/4 is 5/4. 6 plus 2 is 8. So I need to add my 8 and my 5/4. 5/4 is really the same thing as 1 1/4. 4 goes into 5 once with 1 as a remainder. So if I put 8 with my 1 1/4, that gives me 9 1/4 blocks. There you have it. We found the distance between everybody's houses.